everybody. This is Coffee, and this is going to be part one of my series on policing ecology. Okay, I'm going to kick things right off here, get right into the issue of quotas. Now, I'm sure that if you've been watching the news lately or within the past few months, you've heard news regarding certain departments being under fire for establishing a quota. Departments like the LAPD and the NYPD. Okay, so what is a quota exactly? And right off the bat, the research that I've done, where I kicked out surveys to officers across the United States, I've been given information that shows that the majority of officers who've taken the survey have reported to me that they've experienced quotas in one form or another and pressure to meet those quotas. And that's a very bad system that needs to be fixed. So, what's a quota? Okay? Well, quota is a system where you have to meet a specific benchmark of numbers for over a given period of time. It could be every week, every month, every 6 months, a year, etc. And basically they're looking for three things, three important measurable things. FI cards, like field interview cards, arrests, and citations, okay? So if you wouldn't meet a certain amount of citations, or a certain amount of arrests, or a certain amount of FIs, you wouldn't be meeting the quota, all right? So how are they enforced? So typically when a commander, captain, sergeant, corporal, lieutenant, whomever tells you to go do something, you can kind of like, all right, and go do your patrol duties and just put that on the back burner. But there are certain ways to twist people's arm to get them to do what you want, and I'll go over these ways right now. One is they can put you on something called a fixer. Now, you NYPD guys know exactly what I'm talking about when I say put you on a fixer. A fixer is a method of discipline that doesn't include paper, okay, so nobody's dropping paper on you, but they do something when you screw up to put you in a position that's not very fun. Like, for example, going direct traffic in a very busy intersection when it's freezing outside in the middle of winter. And they leave you in that fixer, could be a week, could be a month, could be 6 months, okay? And the possibilities are endless of the different fixtures they can devise for you, okay? Secondly, they can deny you training. Now, being a police officer, you get access to a lot of cool different training. You can go to tactical handgun classes, you can go to computer forensics, or whatever stuff you're interested in, they got classes for, okay? But you gotta put in for those courses. You can't just show up to class one day and be like, hey, I'm here to learn. No, you gotta put in information. It's gotta go up to sergeant, lieutenant, captain, all the way up, okay, for them to approve it. And if you're not meeting a specific quota, what can happen is the particular brass who says, oh, Officer Johnson's not meeting the quota, boom, okay? They strike it off right there and they don't give you a reason why. Third thing is they give you tertiary discipline. What's tertiary discipline? Well, you can have an officer who generally goes about their job and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, but they're not exactly perfect. And so there's little bits in every policy manual that I've gone over where they can find something to write you up for if they want to. I'm sure that exists in the corporate world also.
Hello, Peter. What's happening? We have sort of a problem here. Yeah, you apparently didn't put one of the new cover sheets on your TPS reports.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry about that. I forgot.
Yeah.
So what they can do is they can say, okay, well, your socks aren't the right height, or, your eyebrows aren't exactly symmetrical, whatever nonsense they can find in there, and they'll give you discipline for it. They can give you record counseling, or they can give you a command discipline, chicken dinner, or they can go as far as give you like time off for it. They can suspend you in certain cases, and what they'll do is they'll find some other way to do it. They won't say, it's because you're not meeting the quota, because that would be illegal, which I'll get to in a little bit. They'll just say, so-and-so made this infraction to keep doing it. Fourth thing, they can deny your transfer. So let's say you want to go from this house to that house, you want to go into SID or anything else like that. Well, what they can do is they can say, nope, you can put in for the training, and since you're not meeting the quota, they can say, per the needs of the department, we need you to stay here. And they will do that constantly. Last thing right here is that they can also deny your promotion. Now, in very heavily unionized departments, you won't find that as much because that's a big union issue. But in smaller departments or places where unions are not as strong in certain states, you can have the command staff just basically establish whatever promotional process they want to and pick whomever they want to on a completely odd manner, and they can say, well, oh, he's not meeting the quota, therefore he's not getting promoted. But again, they won't put it on paper, they just do it. So how are quotas perpetuated? Well, there's two ways that I've come across that in my research, and the first one is divisive propaganda. Now, with senior guys who have understood that the policing ecology and how to create a sustainable system, how to resolve conflict, they don't go out there and they don't abide by quotas and that sort of stuff. And so obviously that their stats when they get pulled are a lot lower than the rookies who are brand new to the job and they're experiencing police work for the first time. So the commanders, what they do is they pull the rookies in and they say, well, it's a good job you're making all these arrests and whatnot, and don't listen to those senior guys because they're lazy, they're not workers. And we need workers like you to go out there and keep the world safe and, sew the blanket of freedom and whatever crap. And so what happens is when they create a divisive nature and they empower the rookies to go out there and follow these quotas. Now these rookies go out there and they don't listen to anything that a senior officer might say to them, say like, this is not a way to do this, this is not the best way to resolve this conflict, is by enforcement action, there's another way to do this that makes the policing ecology system that much better. Instead they just go out there and cite, arrest, and FI anybody they can, okay? So cronyism is the next stage. Well, this is two-part. One, this is for promotional processes, and two, for specialized positions. So back to these rookies again. When you get a commander pulls his rookie aside, and all the rookie wants to do is make his commander happy. He doesn't know the system well enough yet to say, I don't like this, I should be doing something that focuses better on policing ecology. So what happens is he follows the system, and the commander says, well, I like that officer, and I want to put him in a position of importance somewhere, so he makes me look good constantly. Back to the issue of promotion. When that officer comes around to putting in for promotion, the commander says, I like this guy, he does exactly what I tell him to do, so therefore he's going to get promoted. So then you have that rookie that gets promoted ahead of everybody else because he's going about this system of quotas, and that rookie thinks that the only way to do police work is by doing these stats, these numbers, and that sort of stuff, and it keeps the system going. That's bad. Okay, what's the legality of quotas? Well, in most states that I've done the research on, it's illegal. You can't establish ticket quotas, and then arrest quotas would be absurd. What effect does it have on the public? Well, again, back to these rookies and divisive propaganda and the cronyism, that these rookies are out there and they want to get the numbers. It gets to be an issue of greed for them. Like, I want this many citations, or I got to have more citations than Officer Smith over here because I want to get that position. So they do nothing but cite and arrest constantly. Get a lot of FIs every month and that sort of stuff. And what happens is it becomes no longer about resolving conflict or doing police work or looking for the welfare of people. It becomes simply an issue of generating numbers. Okay? It's like making widgets in a factory, and that's not our job as police officers. And when an officer is willing to just get as many stats as possible, it gets to a system where they're willing to do almost anything to get a stat. Okay? And with that, it leads right to corruption. Okay? When they're going to violate somebody's civil rights, when they're going to make an illegal search, or they're going to make a bad arrest or anything else like that, just to make the commander happy, or just to get another stat, get that promoted or into that lateral transfer area. The next part of this is that you have a direct loss of confidence in police in general. Okay? When, again, back to when officers are willing to do anything to get a stat, or gets promoted via cronyism, or gets into a lateral position, like a nylon ninja group where they have to run around and do crime suppression, etc., then the public realizes that these officers are not there to look out for my welfare. They're not there to make everything safe. They're there to go along with the corporate mentality which has taken place in policing in the past 2 decades. And the loss of confidence in policing makes everybody hate us, and it destroys a sustainable system of policing ecology. Where do quotas originate from? Okay, well, back in the 80s, they devised a system called CompStat. What's CompStat? Well, it's computer statistics of crime. So what they would do is you have the crime analyst that would go in there. Crime analyst would punch a bunch of numbers into the old Tandy 1000s, and then they would print off tons of sheets showing like weekly trends of crime. So week 1 right here is our base indicator, and these represent robberies, these little dots. So we have a bunch of dots here, and so week 1 we have a bunch of crime, and then week 2 we have crime that goes nuts. So we have all these robberies increase. Now the commander comes in, let's say the commissioner comes into a large meeting. The commissioner talks to his bureau commanders, and he says, well, what are you guys doing to solve this crime? This is absurd. You're not doing your jobs. And that's a light version. Having sat in on ComStat meetings, some of these meetings can get to the point where it's verbally abusive the way they treat their underlings. So they go in there and they say, what are you doing to decrease crime? And you guys are worthless and everything else like that. And the captains go, well, what do we do? And they say, well, you know what? I'm going to make an FI detail every day, and we're going to go out there and get a bunch of citations and a bunch of arrests, and FI everybody we can run into. So they go out there, even though it has nothing to do with resolving robbery issues, and they make 1,000 arrests that week. Okay, and for week 3 we have a reduction in robberies. Now we have a problem here that correlation does not equal causation, but a lot of these commanders don't realize that, so they assume going out there and getting numbers, which relates right back to the rookies, because you've got rookies who follow this mentality back in ages and have now become captains. So they follow the system and they think, okay, well, this is the only way to do police work. And then the following week, after that, robberies have gone nuts. We're back to the situation where robberies have increased, and then again we go back to the ComStat meeting where everybody's trying to rip each other's throats out. And they say, well, what have you done to decrease robberies? And they're up again, and you should be fired or tarred and feathered and hung, etc. And the captain says, well, we issued 5 million citations last month. And then the commander says, okay, well, I understand, you guys are doing your job. Again, even though it has nothing to do with this. And the problem is that when you have like the stop and frisk bullshit in New York City, what's happening is this mentality teaches officers to go out there and stop and frisk anybody for anything just to get these numbers. And if crime goes down, then they automatically correlate it to, oh, okay, well, therefore that is the only way to do police work. And once again, that's not how you address certain issues like robberies. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever regarding Part 1 of Policing Ecology, let me know. I'll be glad to answer them. And thanks for your time.